I've been seeing quite a bit of discussion about the Switch 2, and it's been getting very exciting, especially with all the rumors and leaks saying that there is an expected announcement either later this month or as early as next month. And I'm genuinely getting very excited. And there's so many things that I hope the Switch 2 does that might actually be amazing and change how I game. The Switch was one of the first consoles and just one of the first manufacturers to seriously make one of the most powerful portable systems out at the time, especially considering what was the most popular in 2016 when it comes to portable gaming was the 3DS, the PS Vita, and these budget emulation devices that were just getting started at the time. And on the PC side of things, there was GPD, and that was about it. So the Switch really did revolutionize gaming when it came out. It proved that these hybrid systems are a valid way to game and the preferable way to play for a lot of people, just out of sheer convenience. And with all this anticipation of the Switch 2's announcement, I've been seeing some pretty funny articles. Especially one that I like the most is one that's straight up titled, "Will the Switch 2 Save Gaming? In PS5, sunk cost fallacy or not?" So it's frankly a hilarious article, but genuinely, the Switch 2, if it's at the right price, genuinely not an unrealistic thing to say of will it save gaming, because the Switch 2, if Nintendo sticks the landing, honestly, yeah, it could save gaming. Because I'm not a big doom and gloom kind of guy, but the gaming as a whole just hasn't been a good year. I had some initial high hopes, but considering all of the layoffs and the less than stellar game releases, Concord immediately comes to mind, surviving a week and a half, 2 weeks, then getting shut down. And with the recent PS5 Pro announcement, gaming I feel like isn't in a, let's say, just a good place at the moment. And the Switch 2 could be exactly what the industry needs to rally behind. And with expectations so high, I'm afraid that Nintendo might not be able to stick the landing. But with all these leaks and rumors, I'm still very excited. Me personally, I can't wait for when the Switch 2 comes out. So here are a few things that I hope happens with the Switch 2. Starting off with backwards compatibility. I love my 3DS because I can play every single DS game I've ever had on it. And it was just such an immediate value that it was just the best way to play DS games, excluding the pillar boxing that happens when you play DS games. It can be kind of annoying, but there's ways to get around it, especially if you have a modded 3DS. But when the 3DS originally came out, with less than stellar launch titles, there was still the immediate value of being able to play all your previous DS games. Some would even get modern 3DS enhancements like Pokemon Black and White 2. While the game didn't necessarily change anyway, they added features that allowed you to interact with the 3DS, especially if you had games like Pokemon Dream Raider. You were able to transfer Pokemon from that into Black and White 2, a DS game. And I think that's why there hasn't been a huge amount of announcements, because they're saving a lot of titles that will most likely be cross-generation for the new Switch and the Switch 2. And some of them that have, I suspect would be better running on the Switch 2. Things like Metroid Prime 4. But a downside of having immediate access to all your previous Switch games on the Switch 2 might lead Nintendo not to put as much effort into their launch titles that they probably did with the original 3DS. If you look back at that launch lineup, it wasn't great. I have a feeling though that third-party developers will take the system seriously, because initially when the original Switch came out, it had very little third-party support. There was Capcom, an indie studio, and I think that's about it. However, the Switch was very quickly able to prove why it should exist. And having that power base of all those consumers and developers who have faith in Nintendo and their Switch platform, I feel like can carry them quite easily into the Switch 2. I have a feeling that developers are going to be ecstatic to have the Switch 2. And if anything we've seen from these leaks and rumors from Gamescom a while ago, that developers have seen the Switch 2 hardware in action, I believe that they're pretty excited to have access to higher end and more performance hardware from Nintendo. Another thing I really hope for the Switch 2 is that it comes at a reasonable price. With the announcement of the PS5 Pro at $700 and damn near $1,000 if you get the stand and all the other accessories for the PS5 Pro, it just seems a little ridiculous. And I don't expect Nintendo to go that crazy, but I hope for around the $300 to $400 price point. Ideally $350 if it's similar to the OLED, but recent leaks and rumors do point to the system costing more like $400, which isn't terrible, but I would like to see it hopefully be cheaper. Alongside that, I hope there's native compatibility for Joy-Cons, whether it's through an adapter or that it just continue to use the same rail system. But leaks and rumors say the contrary, that it uses some sort of magnet attach technology. But that still remains to be seen. I'm still rather skeptical on that, but it'd be pretty neat, and I don't see any reason why they wouldn't be able to make an adapter if it did use such a system that you can attach and slide onto the rails and then turn your Joy-Cons into the new type. But that is a lot of wishful thinking and a lot of unsubstantiated rumors backing that, so frankly, we have no idea what it could be at this time. Something else that I hope happens on the Switch 2 is increased performance for pre-existing Switch games. Think FPS boost technology found on the Xbox Series systems for original Xbox One games. Being able to go back and play some of my favorite Switch games at higher quality in a more stable FPS would be pretty nice. Recently, I've gone back and played Pokemon Sword and Shield in anticipation for Pokemon AZ, but I've noticed that the performance during the Pokemon battles is a little choppy, and especially if you're going into some of the wild areas that are like you haven't been to in a bit and just like reloads that area, it can be a little choppy, and I would like to be able to go and play those, slightly underperforming games on the Switch too, and hopefully they'll be running better, whether at a higher resolution or just at a more stable, maybe even a higher FPS, which would be amazing. The next thing I hope for is a specific launch title. I haven't really dipped in my toes into video game expectations or speculation of what is to be expected for release, but a game I really hope that comes out is a new 3D Mario. It hasn't been an incredible a long time since we've gotten a 3D Mario. There's definitely been longer stints before, but I really like 3D Mario. It's always been one of my favorite ways to play Mario. And Mario Odyssey was amazing, and the remake or port of 3D World was also pretty good, especially the part with Bowser's Fury. That was an amazing expansion to an already pretty fun game. And I think it would make a lot of sense because they launched the Switch with Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. It'd be pretty cool to see them launch the Switch 2, with a 3D Mario, and then give a Zelda game maybe a little down the line like they did with Mario Odyssey coming a few months after the Switch first released. Another thing that I hope happens with the Switch 2 is not necessarily better battery life, but better battery management. Be able to have the device sleep for longer. And on top of that, have a better battery charging system. Because currently, the reason why the Switch can't be used with other chargers, which technically you can, but it is very much ill-advised, is because of a weird proprietariness with the USB-C charging port. It's supposed to follow USB protocol standard, just charging outputs and inputs and whatnot, but it's consistently not done that, and because of that, it has killed multiple Switches, especially if you're using third-party docks. The Nyko one immediately comes to mind as a major issue that happened after the 5.0 update with the Switch. And it's clear that Nintendo has gone about in such a way to de-incentivize you from using third-party chargers, especially if you're using with your dock, making me and many other people just very much uncomfortable using third-party chargers and docks. To surmise, I just hope Nintendo just uses a more standard version of USB-C, and so it causes less issues than the current one does, because third-party docks should be available and easy to use, because the Switch docks as they stand now are around $80, $90, which is just absurd. This last thing that I hope for probably is fairly obvious, but I've been a victim of many, many, many times, that being Joy-Con drift. I seriously hope that Nintendo figures it out and just uses different analog sticks. I feel like Hall Effect joysticks might be a little bit too much to ask from Nintendo, because they never feel like just quite a very technologically advanced company. So anything involving just new technology or just in-demand technology doesn't really feel like the Nintendo thing to do. They feel like they should just make up their own interesting, creative solution to a problem that is a very simple solution. But I just seriously cannot stand the current Switch's Joy-Cons, to the point I don't even use Joy-Cons anymore because I've had about 5 of them die on me. Not all due to Joy-Con drift, but some manner of drift was apparent on all of my Joy-Cons at some point, and I had to either replace them or they're now just sitting in the dead Joy-Con bin. Other than that, I would love to hear what you guys think. Are you excited for the Switch 2? Do you want a specific feature that I didn't talk about? Or is there a leak I didn't even mention? I would love to hear what you guys think about this down below. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. All the other social media garbage down below. And last but not least, have a wonderful day.